If you're at all familiar with the 1v1 scene in Rocket League, you've no doubt heard of Scrub Killa. In my opinion, he's the greatest 1v1 player of all time, at least in terms of performance in ranked and in major tournaments. Scrub Killa hasn't just proven himself as a ones player, he's also performed well in multiple 3v3 tournaments, even back when Rocket League first came out. He also managed to lead Team Defuse to a win at the Insomnia 60 LAN. With the 12 Titans tournament approaching, and as Scrub will soon be transitioning from focusing on ones to threes, I thought it would be a good time to go over his approach to Rocket League, and hopefully give you guys some thoughts on how we can learn from his overall playstyle. We're also going to spend a good amount of time talking about 1v1 strategy because I think there's a lot to learn there. I know most of you are like me, and your ones rank probably isn't your best rank, but even if you don't play ones, there's so many skills that ones player have honed that people who just play doubles or threes really rarely use. Anyways, I hope you guys like this one. Make sure to check out Scrub Killa's Twitch. I've linked that in the description below. Also, be sure to subscribe if you find these videos helpful or entertaining or whatever. Alright, on to the video. Scrub has had his share of 1v1 rivals since Rocket League first came out, but there have really only been a few players who have been able to stick with him consistently, even though now there really are so many good ones players that any top tier player could probably win at any given moment. Even though Scrub has been known to completely throw a series every now and then, for the most part, he's been consistently dominant. I know that at one point Scrub's accounts were the top 2 ranks. He might have actually even had a third account in the top 5. I don't really quite remember. I want to start by looking at some of the things that make Scrub so hard to beat at 1v1. Now, remember, every one of these skills is important for 2v2 and 3v3 as well. This isn't just 1v1. So don't just tune out because you don't like playing ones. I've found that oftentimes the reason I don't like playing ones is because I don't like having all my flaws become apparent. It is a playlist that is unique and there's some things about it that maybe hurt you in other playlists, but for the most part, it shows your weaknesses. It shows where you're bad at defending, challenging, how you're bad at reading players. So playing ones is good. That's advice that I need to take. For about a year, Scrub's kickoff was almost impossible to beat. In fact, the standard diagonal kickoff was basically invented by Scrub. Though many players use a somewhat different variation, the concept is the same. Get to the ball as fast as possible while staying goal side. When you watch Scrub do this kickoff, it's almost like he's trying to wrap his car around the ball from the inside. One of my first videos goes over how to win kickoffs, so go check that out if you're interested in that. Or if you're still just driving directly at the ball. I think you'll actually find this really helpful. Don't mind my terrible editing though. Anyways, there's more to this than just winning the kickoff. You need to be able to consistently make those open shots off of the wall that happen when you do win a kickoff. One way to practice getting consistent with kickoff goals is to just practice throwing the ball off the sidewall and then just working on your shot from there. One thing that Scrub likes to do is just take lots of shots. This gives him time to go steal his opponent's boost and then take possession again after his opponent tries to save it. Just being able to take lots of shots can really wear your opponent down. This is something I've struggled with. Too often, I wait for that perfect opportunity to score, instead of just taking shots and keeping pressure. So here's an example. If you know how to flick the ball, don't wait until the person has challenged. Just get the ball and try to make a really good flick pretty much right when you get the ball. At most ranks, this is enough to beat almost anyone. Scrub is also one of the most accurate shooters in the game, especially on those little awkward shots that a lot of us miss. He just rarely ever misses these kinds of shots. High-level 1v1 players are always fighting for possession. This doesn't mean that you play recklessly or just go all in on a really risky play. Scrub is always reading his opponent and then acting accordingly. He knows when he can challenge and when he should just back off or throw in a fake challenge. It's important to think of 1v1 this way. You're constantly battling for possession so that you can create pressure and make a play happen. But when it's clear that you can't gain possession, you should concede and just go play defense and let the other person have possession. A lot of players want to challenge earlier than they need to. That's where you really get into trouble in 1v1. So here's a really helpful skill that I haven't really talked about very much. Scrub Killa may be the best at shadowing in the entire game. This is partially because his reaction time is like twice as fast as mine. Here's the basic premise of shadowing. You have a better chance of making a save and of being in a good position after you challenge if you position your car sideways and attack the ball sideways. So in ones, you're almost never going to challenge your opponent straight on. As a general rule, when your opponent closes the gap between them and the goal, you should be slowly closing the gap between you and your opponent. You really don't want to be turning and challenging the ball when there's this huge gap between you and your opponent. If they wait long enough to take a shot, you'll be forced to challenge, usually within your box. But oftentimes you can throw in a fake and make them attack early enough, and then just go save it. It really takes a lot of practice to get used to shadowing and also fake challenging. By the way, the two really go hand in hand. If you're shadowing the ball, you always want to be moving. You want to keep your momentum. And so even just making small movements towards your opponent keeps them guessing. A great way to practice shadowing and challenging and fake challenging is just to get in a 1v1 match with a friend and go back and forth practicing on defense. If you do practice this regularly, your ones rank will shoot up really fast. Very few players are really good at this, and it's not that difficult. It just takes time because it's really more of a feel thing than anything else. Scrub is also known for having a very zoomed in camera setting. I've put his settings in the description below if you want to go try them out. They are really great for ones, if you're wanting to focus more on dribbling and shooting with more precision. I know back in the day when I was playing a lot of ones, I switched to his camera settings and it really helped. At the time, I really didn't even know how to bounce dribble or take power shots, but when I switched to his settings, it felt a lot easier to do those things. I think his camera settings are zoomed a bit out from what they were a year or 2 years ago, but they're still pretty zoomed in. One thing Scrub does really well is use his camera to see what's going on beyond his normal field of view. So Scrub is not only comfortable looking behind him, as most high-level ones players are, but also to the side and even down when he's in the air. I've talked about this before. It's really helpful to just go into free play and hit the ball around, and practice looking around in between shots. If you do practice this regularly, you'll find yourself doing it automatically in-game when you need to. Before we get into Scrub as a 3v3 player, and my thoughts on his future, I want to go over his overall playstyle. I think the best way to describe it is calculated. He rarely rushes into things, even if he's down, and he always seems to have an understanding of what his opponent is trying to do. Even players like Devo, who are incredibly unpredictable, have had little success against him. Only players like Kickoff and Cooksier, for example, who are equally calculated in their playstyles, do well against Scrub. Many of us should at least try to adopt this mentality. I know a lot of times I get down a goal or two and I start to get frantic. I stop playing solid defense and end up giving up 3 more goals. Patience is one of the most important parts of high-level Rocket League, and Scrub is a really patient player. Yes, you need to play fast and aggressive, but it's more than that. It's this fine line where you're trying to create plays and play aggressive while realizing when it's time to fall back and just wait. Honestly, if you're wanting to get a good sense of what this looks like, just go watch someone like Scrub or Kickoff play. Not just ones, but really any playlist. Even though Scrub doesn't center his entire game around defense the way that he used to, he's still a very defensive player. Though you should never have one player focusing entirely on defense, it does seem like teams who have that one solid defender do really well. If you're a player who maybe isn't that good at scoring or making passes, you could probably just try investing more of your time in learning what it takes to be a great defender, and then play that role really well. Obviously, a lot of people don't think this is as fun as scoring and playing offensive, but if you do learn how to play more defensive, you'll probably win more games. Even outside of 1v1, Scrub is still one of the best players in the world. Though still very defensive, he's also really good at positioning himself and looking for and receiving passes. It's really hard to say what kind of 3v3 player he will be when he does find a team and competes in RLCS. That's something I'm really looking forward to, honestly. If I were to guess, I would say that Scrub will evolve into a more offensive player, just because of his incredible shooting abilities. So, do I think Scrub has what it takes to succeed outside of 1v1? I have 2 main reasons to say yes. One, he's already proved that he can compete at the highest level in 3s. If he were on the right team, even this season, I think he could have made it to Worlds. Towards the end of 2016, Scrub's team We Dem Babies won multiple Gfinities and a few other tournaments, even beating Flipside in the finals of one of the Gfinities. Scrub's defensive playstyle was incredibly hard for teams to crack, so I think he'll do really well. Now, the second reason I think Scrub will do well is his work ethic. Obviously, Scrub is incredibly talented, but there's more to it than just that. Scrub was 7 or 8 years old when he started playing the prequel to Rocket League. He's literally been playing this game for 8 years. Although he didn't play SART near as much as he plays Rocket League. He's been playing this since he was just a wee lad.
That's my wee lad, Gimli.
Can you imagine playing and losing to a 7-year-old at Rocket League, or any video game really? Throughout his career, Scrub Killa has completely changed his gameplay multiple times. Even now I've noticed that, even in ones, he's way more aggressive, and his playstyle is based more on offense than his normal defensive, somewhat passive style. A couple weeks ago, Scrub put out a tweet saying that after the 12 Titans tournament, he was going to completely stop playing ones and focus solely on threes, which obviously I think he needs to do that if he wants to have a chance at RLCS. So yes, he may be incredibly talented, but more than anything, I think he puts in the time, and for that reason, really more than anything else, I think he's going to be really successful at RLCS. Alright, I hope you guys found this helpful. Let me know in the comments below who you want me to cover next. Until next time, peace out.